right, how we doing? Sam here with you. It is Monday, the 18th of February. Now we're going to dig in here and take a more detailed look at the Bitcoin dollar spread here than I can do in 2 minutes on Twitter. So we'll look at a couple of alternates here, but first just a few things, particularly for any of you watching here on YouTube. I have had quite a few people reach out, kind of inquiring as to where I've been, what happened to Sam, where to go. Well, the only reason I've been less visible on YouTube and some of the other accounts is we've been working on a new course, a new series of video trainings on Forex trading as crypto. Well, certainly we're glad to see this here. I'm sure we're ready to declare the bull market has begun, although it's certainly possible. So as we've gone through crypto winter, and I will sort of insinuate this quite regularly here, my view is, a chart's a chart, right? An asset's an asset. As long as I have liquidity, volatility, fair pricing, what do I care? A chart's a chart, right? So I'm going to analyze them the same way. So if crypto is going to be dormant or going sideways, well, we're not going to just stop trading. So, if you're a trader, what are you looking for? You're looking for those variables. So thus we put a lot of emphasis into creating some new content that was totally focused on how a crypto trader might enter the foreign exchange market. So that's where I've been. That's why I haven't been posting here. It's just that producing that content is very time intensive, particularly when you're taking a prospective trader from novice status into, okay, well, here's competency to where at the very least you could get into start doing some paper trading. So that's all that's been going on. So I will be back now because we've got that content is produced. Members have had access to it for a while now, but we will start release some of it here on YouTube and little teasers and such on Twitter, and we may even wrap a contest around it. So we've got some things that we're working on. So I will be posting here more actively now that we have that completed. Now, with all of that said, we always do, I don't mention it often, but I should say we really appreciate our YouTube subscribers. And if you find value here and you feel free to give it a thumbs up or a like or share it with some people. We always appreciate that. So if you like the content here, we'd appreciate that as well. Okay, with all of that said, let's take a look here at Bitcoin. Now this is the count that I just kind of alluded to this in that very brief video on Twitter. You got to step back from it and look at it and go, okay, well, wait a minute. All right, let's all the subdivision aside. What are we seeing here? This is very consistent fourth wave triangle kind of behavior, all sorts of false breaks. It's hard to see this as anything other than a triangle going in on the fourth, right? Which of course implies that we have at the very least one more push. Now we don't, again, just because it's here doesn't mean we have to go down to 26, 2700. It's not an inevitability. But this price action here certainly gives us some bit of it's a clue, right? We don't ever know for sure, but we can certainly say, well, this is very typical of behavior you would expect to see in a triangle, which we would find in the fourth wave. So is the 3 here? Is the 3 here? There's a couple of different ways to interpret this. There are probably 10 different alternates here, but there are 3 that really stand out that we're going to look at here. This technically has to be invalidated. Now I'm here. This is the 1 hour on Coinbase. So let me zoom a little bit here. So while the subdivision here has been challenging for any Elliottician here, and as the old joke goes, put this chart in front of 10 Elliotticians, you're likely to get 10 different counts. It's been surprisingly just very, very technical. So if we look, even if we just think, all right, well, what are the algos in here playing? Well, we certainly had this one, right? So actually, I think I was drunk. Well, that's close enough. So you see, here's the front run on the, right? So that's obvious. We've got algorithms in here. So this is a clear, right. It's literally damn near to the tick. I think it's 2 ticks in front of the algo target. So it's been technical, but you got to sort of step back and go, well, where are we? Well, and I just showed this earlier, right? If we use the dominant swing here and we go to the dominant swing low, where do we find resistance? Or this, as I've said earlier, that should surprise no one. We go literally into the golden zone. So we know algorithms are in here. That would be the footprint of an algorithm that would be defending there. They do not let it break the 65. Now that doesn't mean that it couldn't break. Right? So I'm not saying get on a short right now because that's where we're headed. But this is a technical reaction here. Again, it's not complicated. We can see exactly what happened here. So if we're going to pivot here. No, emphasis if, because that's a pretty good threat to that pivot here. So just as there's an algorithm defending here, we can do the same thing and look here and go, well, how are we looking here? Well, is this a front run on the 50? Just blew right through first target. Are we going to come up and be denied second target by a few ticks because of the golden zone? So you have fighting algorithms there. It's certainly possible. So you got to kind of look at this and go, all right, wait a minute. So this is just a cluster F of, you can, for the Elliottician student, yeah, this is definitely worthwhile to go through, see if you can get a count that fits and not violate any rules. It's worthwhile, right? If you're aspiring to really learn, because this is a challenging count. But if we step back on it and say, all right, well, where are we most likely? It certainly looks like it's a triangle. Even if you just look at point of control here, this is one standard deviation, and I've got this is just visible range. Here's the point of control right smack dab in the middle of the whole thing. But technically, right, we have broken here. So we've got to look at this and see, I see 5s and 3s, right? That's just, any Elliott trader is going to see 5s and 3s. I can't help but see them. And this is the area that I'm challenged with. So this 5, 3, 5 looks complete to me. In the same way that this 5, 3, 5 looks complete. So if I'm working here, this 5, very obvious. Now there's a challenging count in here. There's a triangle in the B. But we can get up to that, and then we get a very clear 5 coming down. So I get back-to-back zigzags. All right, so that's all teed up. Everything's looking good. The count's implying that we're going up for the E. I keep saying, well, likely we're going up for the E, and then there's one more push down. But this is a problem here. So now this doesn't work. I can't have the Y here. I can't have the D here, because while it doesn't break on Coinbase, it broke on just one exchange. That's enough. Count's invalidated. So if I come back to this with that mindset here, that these are connected, that this 5 followed by that 3 followed by this 5 is connected, I get another 3, and then I got to work an ugly 5 out of that. So because we can't finish here, so I've got to come over. All right, so okay, what are the options here in terms of how we might count this? Well, you got a couple of choices here. So in this here, one thought is you put the 3 down here. We get an A, B, C, A, B, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's all good, but the 1, 2, so look at the 2 relative to the 4. Yeah, now I know about rule of alternation. So, but it's the 2 relative to the 4. I just struggle with it. I don't like the symmetry here. So thus this would not be, so is it possible? Yeah, it's possible, right? So we'd have to have a diagonal to finish the D here, and now we've just gone into the ABC here. But I just don't like the count because of that lack of symmetry here. As I will often remind you that symmetry matters. So if we look at the 2 compared to the 4, this is just all wrong. Right, that 2 to that 4, just, if I have to put money on it, I'm going to say, no, I don't like it. I don't like it enough to put money on it. So I'm not going with that count. So what does that leave me? Well, we got to back up from it a little bit and say, okay, wait a minute. What else could be going on? Well, if we're going to stick with the idea that this section here, that these are connected. So here's that zigzag, 5, 3, 5. Well, I can keep going. Right? And I can end up with an ending diagonal here. So to simplify the whole thing, which may be considering how much complexity is in here, what's the simplest possible thing that could be going on here? Well, we've got an A. Now from that, we've got an A, a B, and a C. Now, since we're still in a triangle, it's very hard to eliminate the possibility that we're just going into the C, the D, and the E before we go down one more time. It's hard not to see that here. Now, how are we going to know? Well, obviously, we're going to know here. So this pretty much right on track. That was, again, it's not that I or any of my team are predicting this. It's what the count is implying. That this would be the most probable reaction here, that we would come up and work through this triangle given the sideways action, given where we are in the larger count. It's not predicting the future. It's just saying what's given the countless numbers of Elliott counts and waves that you can work through. This is the most probable outcome. Does not mean that is what's going to happen. It's just until this invalidates, you got to go with probability. So right now we can, yeah, again, I recommend test your skills. See if you can complete down here from this pivot. Well, now knowing what we just did here, and just again, as I just showed it here, as we pulled right here into the golden zone, that would be, is that a tell? Well, that's where you're anticipating the reaction. So is there an alternate here? Or is there any reason to assume anything other than down for the D, up for the E, and then we've got to push one more time down? Now, no, nothing says we have to go to 2,200 or below. Here, we're sitting here, there's back to 3,200. Essentially, you'd have just a big fat double bottom down here. Nothing wrong with that. I have no issue with that in terms of where that fits in the broader count. Now, there's certainly, we could do some fib swing projections that would imply much lower numbers. But until we break this, there's no reason to assume. So we got to break on one side or the other. So right now, there's the first test of the golden zone. Well, that algorithm is selling with that as a target. Well, could I complete the whole thing down here? Yeah, I could. I could if I get 5 down here. Now, it's going to be an awfully small 5 relative to the 3. It's going to be awfully small. But is it possible? Yeah, it's possible. Is it likely? Well, what's more likely is that we would look at a relationship. We do something more consistent with a relationship between the 1. So if we're sticking with the idea that this is the, well, let me just mark these off really quickly. So if we had 1, I think we had to go 2. This would be 3, 4, 5. Now let me get that up into something you can see here. Let's do intermediate. Okay, so so I can get rid of that. I just had that in text so you could keep some context. Okay, so if that's the 3 and we're in the 4, well, that scale doesn't look great, does it? All right, so this seems more likely. Now, maybe that's my bullish bias in influencing where I'm going to project. That would be breaking under 2,000, but again, we just, it's not me saying, based on the Bitcoin hash rate and everything else, I'm just looking at the count, saying what's most probable. Well, again, I've been through this a couple of times. Where are we looking for a third? Right between the 161.8 and the 175. Where do we get a third? Where are we looking for a 4? Wouldn't it be typical to go sideways in a triangle in the 4? Yeah, it would. So then we'd look and say, well, if that. I know this spike here on Bitfinex was extreme. It wasn't the same on others, but we can just do the same idea, right? Same idea. Where are we looking for the 4? Well, in this case, we hit the 23 here in the A wave. We may not make it back there. If this is going down, I know there's a lot of shit on there, but so if we look here, well, there's that longer term algo target. So let me pull this off so you can see a little better. Now I know you can't see that, but just look at the larger context. 1, 2, 3, sideways for the 4, we come down for the 5. Now that has symmetry that I can get behind. Much as I'd love to see the 5 end up down here, does that seem most likely? I would love to be wrong. I absolutely love to be wrong. But I think this is more probable in the same way that the push up push up from this low up to the golden zone was probable. Not definitive, just probable. And now we can certainly break that and then perhaps have to rethink this. But right now, until that's broken, there's no reason to think anything else. Sure, have some alternates. So here, first test, rejected. Right? Algos defend. Doesn't mean they can't just reload and blow right through it. Well, if they do, well, then we got to rethink the whole thing. Well, let's just go back to this alternate that we were just playing with here. Okay, so if this is an alternate here, well, we've got a... Oh, there's a couple of different ways to do it. Let me come back here. I think I actually have it over here the way I want to show it to you. So I got to get some of this out of here. So bear with me just a sec. Okay, so let's get that done. Still looking for a 4 over here. We've got this. Let's get this out of here. Okay, so here's the triangle that would be consistent with the idea. Now, here's an alternate. The 3 is in here. We're still in the triangle. This section here becomes an ending diagonal, right? So does that work? Well, you got to accommodate a very skinny 1, 2 here. So look at this again. It's a little bit of a question mark relative to the symmetry. So it's exact same problem as the other count. Look at the 2 relative to the 4. Okay, it's not great. Not great symmetry. Does it alternate? Well, the idea is from simple to complex. They're both relatively simple. But then we'd have to be comparing also looking at the 1 compared to the 5. Okay, let's look at the 5 compared to the 1. A little problematic as well. So I don't love either one, frankly. So then I come back to it and go, all right, well, what else? Is there something else I'm not thinking about? Let's pull this all the way back. An ABC into a low here is the most simple of all, but you have to put that in the context of, well, where would that put you? Could I be done down here? Is there any possibility that I could have done 3, 4, truncated 5th? Nope. Seems, how are we going to make that work here? I don't think it's there. It's not there. Still reasonable probability that this strong, I should rephrase that, strong probability that this is our 3. We're in the midst of the 4. You know, again, until this breaks, you've got to just anticipate the most probable. That still looks good. I don't see how we can finish. Well, shit, you know, anything's possible. But how are we going to finish down here and resolve the whole move down here with a truncated 5? It just seems so unlikely that this looks, again, just the more probable path. Now, on what's the wild card? Is there a wild card down here? Well, I suppose we can't eliminate this until the 2 is broken. So could it just be that this is the 3, we're just going to finish with a diagonal into the 5 down here, into a double bottom? Boy, it's a bit of a stretch. Or again, back to the symmetry. Is that possible? Well, look again, it's kind of where we left off. So if this is on the prior count, so you'd be looking at this. So if this is the 1, 2, 3, if the 4 is in, is it possible I come down here for the 5 and double bottom? Well, that's a little bit better actually. That's let's see if I can get it so you can see it. That's not crazy. That's not crazy. So this would be the more bullish. Let me get that off. That would be the more bullish interpretation. Well, how are we going to make that work down here? Well, we've got a 1, 2. I can definitely get my 3rd down here. Again, we know that went right to the most probable location for the 3rd. Well, now let's just look here. So if we go A, B, C, well, first thing you got to allow for, you know, not much of a C relative to the A, but it wouldn't be the craziest thing I'd ever seen. Well, could we simply just have a diagonal finishing here? Is that possible? We'd finish down here, something like that. Sure. A couple of things to note. That we can only allow for so much here. So let me get this. In a diagonal, we're typically looking for the 4 in relation to the start of the 1. I guess we can take this off. The 4 in relation to the start of the 1 through the pivot of the 3. Well, if this is going to be a diagonal, it's got to be in 3. So I got to go 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. Well, let's look here. So as I just drew it here. So if we're going from the start of the 1 through the pivot of the 3, golden zone. Now here I'm jumping around on exchanges to show you different places. So now I'm on Bitstamp on the 4 hour. Could it be that simple? Well, technically, until this breaks, yeah, it could. There's no reason that can't work. Now, you're not going to have... Well, the symmetry is doable here. So if this is 1, 2, 3, 4, well, of course, it still implies one more push down. So the implication is this holds, and we're going at the very least that algo target would be in play. Now, what happens if this breaks? If we break this algo target? Well, there's really not much to pull from up above. Where else are you going to pull? I mean, I suppose there's... I suppose the other wild card... Let's get this off here so you can see it. If this breaks, then you'd have to be thinking of it like this. We'd have to put the 4 over here. And you'd essentially, in the context of trying to simplify, you'd be looking at A, B, C before going down to a deeper location for the Y. All of this would change. So if this is A, B, and we're in the process now, all right, this is contingent upon this breaking and not just turning down here after bumping into the golden zone. If we're going to go there, well, then I look here and I think, okay, well, wait a minute, I can deal with that. So if this is my 2 and this is my 3 down here, well, that'd just be taking me to the 38. Pretty much what I'd be anticipating. So this would be contingent on this count breaking. Or pardon me, that golden zone breaking, and now we're heading up here. Because once we break that golden zone, there's very little else. I suppose we could pull from here. Now we'd be running into the 50. I'd want to check that this is the dominant, right? This is the one you know you're going to run into. So if we squeeze that all back together, could that be? Can't say I hate it. So we could finish the whole thing. So we'd have A, B, C, the larger count here. So this would be potentially, actually we'd have to rethink this because this is an X wave. This count was, I'm sorry, I'm jumping around from so many exchanges. So that wouldn't work with this as an ABC because this would be an X and you'd be looking for an ABC. So this would have to be, we'd have to, on a larger degree, if we were going to finish down here in 5. Then this would be this move here. If this is going to finish as 5, that's completing. So we'd have to do it this way. So you'd have to have it as, this would be your C. So you'd have to have A, B, C. So you'd have to do it this way. So essentially you have to go A, B, C down here. Let's get that yellow and we'll go up to intermediate here. So you'd have to run it that way. So X, A, B, and down into the big C. That's a contender. Now that would put us down here. Still, it's just working off the algo play. Assuming we go 1, 2, 3. This is the 4. So first assumption, we're breaking the golden zone. We're going to go higher, 38. Right? Could go to the 50, but you'd be looking for it here at the 38 with the anticipation there's one more drive down, and that would put you towards that 2200 figure that you've seen. We've talked about before, which is just tied to an algo play, to an algo pull. That's where that's coming from. So if this is A, B, there's probably another way to count this. But if that's A, B, C, we're still, there is essentially no count that doesn't have us going down one more time to at the very least test the low. I wish I could come to another conclusion. I just don't see it. Again, not that it's not possible that we just we start going. It's sure it's possible that this just breaks and breaks and breaks and off we go. But is it probable? Afraid not. Afraid not. It is not probable. I wouldn't be buying Bitcoin here on the anticipation that the bull move has started. There's just not a clean finish down here. So again, not that it's not possible. But I would choose your targets wisely here if you're on the buy side here, because this looks very much so like it's still not resolved. It's not done. All right, guys, just 25 minutes. That's probably enough. So just a reminder here, you can look for some very FX-focused content coming from us in the near term, and as I said earlier, we appreciate the likes and the shares. If you like what you see here, we appreciate it. Okay, guys, back to you later.